Dr. Xuan is a lecturer in economics at a university in Vietnam, Nha Trang University, and she has been together with EfD network for quite a few years. And Dr. Xuan also interested in doing research in the area of fishery, aquaculture, and marine resources topics. And Dr. Xuan also published extensive papers in the in many reputable journals in the area of agriculture, aquaculture, and environmental economics as well. And today, I would like to introduce Dr. Xuan to present her papers with his colleagues. The title for today's presentation is Factor Affecting Compliance with Rice-Based Fisheries Management in Vietnam. And Dr. Xuan will have about 30 to 35 minutes presenting the work, and also followed by about 10 to 15 minutes question and answers. So Dr. Xuan, the floor is yours. Once again, thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tom, for your nice introduction about me. So today I'm happy to present our research that one of the paper funded by the EfD. So the paper is the factor affecting compliance with rice-based fishery management in Vietnam. So why this didn't move? So the content of the presentation is including background, research objectives, study area, methodology, key findings, challenge in managing illegal fishing in Tam Giang Lagoon, policy implication, and the last is conclusion. So the background of the study is that the importance of small-scale fishery in economic value, that small-scale fishery supporting local economy and livelihood and food security. It provide essential protein source for community and maintaining tradition and community identity. However, it often face overexploitation, further increased by prevalence of illegal fishing. So the right-based fishery co-management have been applied worldwide to address the problem, but still, illegal fishing is a central challenge. So the research objective, including 2 points. The first is to investigate the level of fisher state non-compliance with turf regulation in Tam Giang Lagoon, Vietnam, and the second is to determine factors influencing fisher non-compliance decisions. The study area is in Tam Giang Lagoon, a vital ecosystem. Tam Giang Lagoon is the largest lagoon in Asia, located in Thừa Thiên Huế province, Vietnam. It covers 22,000 hectares of water along 70 kilometer coastline. And the lagoon support diverse aquatic species, provide critical habitat for fish, and it also a central spot for fishing, supporting the livelihood of 3,100 people living in this area. In this area, there are both types of common and private property. One is the mobile fishing gear group, and the other is the fixed fishing gear group. The fixed gear, represented by the fish coral, the fixed gear fisher acquire long-term fishing ground right of use. For example, fish coral can be transfer generationally, but they are not alienation right. And the mobile gear fisher are not allowed to fish at the mouth of fish coral and can only access open access area of the lagoon. So to promote sustainable fishing, the Territorial Use Right for Fishery was established in 2009. The regulation including entry limit, gear restriction, disruptive fishing gear prohibition, and protected area. However, there are still so many challenges there. First is the illegal fishing remained a significant concern for the lagoon sustainability, and poachers often use the destructive gear fishing in the protected area and use net with smaller match size than the requirement. So the research took the sample in the Tam Giang Lagoon with the there 2,092 fishers were interviewed face-to-face in January 2024. The participants came from the 3 fishing villages, Cư Lạc, Hà Công, and Ngô Mỹ Thạch in Quảng Điền Street, in Quảng Điền district. The FA leader helped with the survey. They informed villager and encouraged the villager participation. Fishers were informed about the survey voluntary participation, and they could refuse to participate or answer any questions. So in this study, we used both type question, the randomized response technique and the direct question to investigate about the illegal fishing activity. So the RRT involves a questioning technique where the respondent using dice is told to answer yes, no, or truthfully yes or no for a set of numbers appearing on the dice. And this method was used to check how truthfully the answer to direct the question are, and the data of the direct questions then was used as a response variable for compliant regression model. So the RRT question and the data and the direct question use the same questions, but it appear in different format. Here you can see an example of the RRT question ask people about their illegal activity. There are 3 illegal fishing questions, including the use of destructive fishing gear and fishing in the protected area and the use of net with illegal mesh sign. So here the construction of the constructs of the question will be asked the respondent rolling the dice, look at the sign and answer the question accordingly. And the rules here is when people see a yes on one side of the dice, they will answer the yes. If they see the no, the answer is no. And if that is the blank, the answer will be truthfully. So one question is that in the past year, have you ever fished illegally using destructive fishing gear such as electric fishing gear, electric lagoon sand, motorized foot mesh, and mollusk eel wreck? Yes or no? So this is for one type of illegal fishing activity. And then we use the binary logistic regression model to investigate the factor influence the compliance. The Y, the independent variable, will be the violation, and it equaling to 1 if fisher violate the regulation, otherwise take value of 0. And X here is the independent variable including both the latent variable and social demographic of the fisher. So here we looking for 4 types of latent variable that we can infer the motivation of compliance, including the awareness of consequence of illegal fishing, norms, legitimacy, and instrumental incentive. This is the characteristic of the respondent. In our sample, female was account for 56% on average, 50 years old and with low education, about 4 years of school on average. And women play a crucial role in fishery in Tam Giang Lagoon, given the traditional fishing practice. They involve in all fishing activity, either fishing alone or as assisting their husbands. The most popular fishing gear in the lagoon were Chinese fish trap, taking account 86%, then the tuna net with 53%, and the fish coral with 27%. Fisher and tree survey village do not employ destructive method, but the use of net with illegal method is quite popular. Please notice that the persistence of destructive fishing has been recorded anecdotally, showing the offender come from the outside of the lagoon community. And here is the result. We have the you can see in the figure 2, that is the proportion of non-compliant with 3 fishing rule using the RRT and the direct questions. Here, the destructive fishing method and fishing in the protected area take a very small proportion. However, the fishing with small method is quite popular. You can see it take about 54% for the RRT and 57% for the direct questions. And in the figure 3, you can see the illustration of self-reported level of comfort and perception of colleague comfort when answering the sensitive question using the RRT. Here, most respondents feel very comfortable when they answering with the RRT technique. So, because the destructive fishing method and fishing in the protected area take into account very small proportion, so we just use the data from fishing with small mesh size for the regression to investigate the factor influence the compliance. So in the table here, we see the result from the binary logistic regression. We can see that there are two drivers affecting the compliance. The first is the awareness, and the second is the legitimacy. Fisher aware of the fisher aware of the negative impact of illegal fishing are more likely to comply, and if they perceive the regulation as legitimate, they are less likely to violate. However, we cannot see the significant effect compliance with the social norm and instrumental incentive. For the social norm, it might be that the widespread non-compliance with illegal method may normalize and make irrational. For the instrumental incentive, because of the lack of effective enforcement mechanism, it will weaken the deterrent effectiveness. The instrumental incentive here, the enforcement, monitoring and enforcement just focused on the restrictive fishing gear rule and the fishing in the protected area, but for the use of small size nets, they don't have people violate with this rule are not faced the fine or punishment. The characteristic of fisher also impact the compliance. For example, younger fisher are more likely to violate regulation than older fisher. Fisher with higher education levels show better compliance with regulations, and more experienced fisher are more likely to engage in non-compliant behavior. So despite the knowing the METSA regulation, the use of illegal nets is widespread in the survey village and also in the lagoon. The reason for this may be the high poverty rate in fishing community. It's strengthened non-compliant. Here you can see the local poverty rate is about 10.3% compared to the provincial and national average, that is 7% and 9%. And the second reason is the enforcement gap, like monitoring and enforcement mostly implemented regarding the use of destructive gear and fishing in the protected area, but illegal mesh nets are ignored, relying solely on education without penalties. The violator often have faster boat, while the FA have low speed boat, making it difficult to chase the violator. Once the violator leaves an FA zone, a local patrol team does not have authority to enforce in another zone. And also the FA are not authorized to punish violator, but only report the violated case to the community people committee, where punishment decision has been made. And the last reason is the lack of incentive. For example, fisher lack motivation to participate in monitoring and enforcement. They faced the risk of reprisal from violator, for example, physically attack, destroy property, threaten family, why there are no official policy and measure to protect them from these situations. And the low level of fisher engagement in monitoring also due to the lack of financial incentive. So policy implication here is for two types of compliant behavior. One is to address non-compliant with net METSA regulation, that is very popular in the community. And the second is the reducing poaching from outsider. So to address non-compliant with net METSA regulation, there are some implications. First is to increase the fine and probability of being caught to deter illegal fishing, and also educate fisher about the long-term consequence of illegal fishing on the ecosystem and livelihood, and also involve fisher in decision making process to increase their trust in the regulation. And the last is support fisher in exploring alternative income opportunities such as ecotourism. And to reduce poaching from outsider, there are two strategies can be implemented. The first is strengthen enforcement, and second is increase the coordination and involvement. For example, increasing FFA coordination and communication, as well as encouraging fisher to involve in lagoon management. So this study highlights the importance of understanding the driver of compliance in fishery management in the Tam Giang Lagoon, Vietnam, and by addressing the challenge and leveraging the opportunity, fishery in Tam Giang Lagoon can be sustained. So my presentation is finished now, and thank you for your listening. And
thank you very much, Dr. Xuan Bui, for your great presentation with a very interesting story about the compliance behavior. And now we have about 10 to 15 minutes for questions and discussions. So yeah, any question from audience are more than welcome. Thank you very much. And yeah, we are waiting for the questions and comments from the audience. All right, I saw one hand raising. So Carlos, please, yeah, can you give some comment and questions you may have? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Xuan Bui. Yeah, could you please tell us a little bit more on how the turf regulation works in Vietnam? I'm interested to know if these are the holders of the turf rights are some type of artisanal unions or cooperative of features, and how the monitoring and enforcement works, kind of in a general, at a general level. Is there any role for the government, the National Fisheries Service, or to enforce compliance with the rules there? I mean, I would like to learn a little bit more on how the system works in practice. And then I have a few other questions, comments. You may want to react to them or not. I mean, one initial thing that I was thinking while listening to your presentation is about the way you treat the legitimacy in your analysis. I mean, it has to do with legitimacy about the rule or regulation, the way in which the regulation are created, or is related to the way in which the regulation are implemented. This is another type of sort of legitimacy, or is about the result of the regulation, right? Because I mean, for fishers, the idea of legitimacy can vary across all these dimensions, a way to see this. And the second point I have is about the problem of illegal behavior. Is this from the, let's say, the insiders, the members or the holders of the territorial use rights, or the problem have to do with outsiders, from poachers who do not belong to the union, cooperative, or group holding the turf right? It was unclear for me if this is, and of course I'm not familiar with the case study, but it was unclear from your presentation whether this was a problem caused by members of the unions or cooperative holding the turf rights, or this is a problem related to the outsiders. So yeah, please, if you can illuminate me or us about some of these issues, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. The first question is related to the fishery regulation in Vietnam. So in general, in Vietnam now, we are gradually set up the regulation for the fishery in general. It's very difficult for the output regulation, but for the input, there are some regulation for example, the fishing, like a seasoning for fishing, like the number of vessel limitation. But for a quota, it's very, very difficult. But in our research, it is a little bit specific because it related to the specific area where is both type of fishing activity. One is the like the open access, and the other is the property. So it's a little bit special in that area. That's why the TOP is established to motivate the sustainability of the fishery there. How can I say, the government how can I say, the regulation there set up by both the fishing association and by the local government. So the local government will inform the management, the fishery management policy there, and the FA, the fishery association, they issue their own regulation based on the regulation issued by the local government. So that is for the first questions. Do you want to know more? Any question in the first point? Okay.
Okay.
And the second point is the legitimation in the lagoon. Here I mentioned the legitimation. Here is the legitimate, the how can I say, the legitimation process, including from the first stage, establishing the regulation, to implementing the enforcement. For example, the fine, the penalty, and the last one, and to also in the outcome of the fishery. So the legitimation here is the whole process from the beginning of the season, not just only one state, not just only one state in the how can I say, in the decision making. So people will invite people, the villager will invite to the meeting to set up the regulation, and they are invited to participation in monitoring, and also they should be informed with the result of the penalty, or the result of the penalty, something like that, and inform how effective the management are. But normally, when we ask about that, normally the villager, they are not involved so much in the decision process, the decision making process. Just the FA leader, they are invited to involve to that, and then they come back to the village and inform to the villager. And the third point is the violation. So for the three villages that we are in our survey, that is the turf that they employ the turf in their village. So the villager, they are quite follow the rule. However, there's still conflict between the villager and the outside fisher. The outside, because when the villager they follow the rule, the fishery there, how can I say? The fishery situation there is much better compared to the other area that not follow the turf, because in the lagoon there are very many different communes. So just about 2/3 of the commune follow the turf, and the rest they are not fully the turf regulation. So that's why the outsider they come to the turf village to do poaching. And the fisher in the village, they are quite follow the regulation, but the only one regulation related to the use the small mesh net that is not how can I say, relevant to them, because they are argue for that regulation is not how can I say, is not relevant to the real situation, because the stock there that is multi-species with many species small size. So they said that if they follow the rule with the match size, they cannot catch as much as you want. They cannot catch some species that are not big enough, that are not in the big size. So for them, that regulation is not quite relevant in the actual, the reality. So that's why you see that is very popular. And the local government, they also understand about the situation. So that's why the monitoring and the enforcement is not quite strict for that regulation, but not for the others. They just give the talking and education to the fisher that when we use the small method that will be destroy the stock in the area, but they don't have the how can I say, they don't have the real effective regulation for that to deal with the multi-species there. Yeah. So that is 3 points. Is that address your question, your concern?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
More questions, please. Yeah, I saw one more hand raising. Dr. Xuan Lê, please. Yeah, you are on mute, so you can unmute yourself. And yeah, we can hear you now. All right. Can you speak just a little bit louder?
Okay. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Can everyone hear me well?
Yeah, good now. It's good now.
Okay.
Yeah, very well.
Thank you, Dr. Xuan, for sharing with us your study result. I have some questions. Just want to know about your experience when you did your survey. The first question is when you interview the fishermen, did you ask them some question about fish output and the revenues, maybe per year or per season or per trip? Do they remember? Do they provide you the true number? those information? Is the first question. The second one, it seems that the violator have not been getting much punishment due to their illegal fishing. So is there any implication from your study for this issue? And the last one, I'm a little bit not clear about the way you need to get the answer for the question, for the sensitive question, like have you ever do illegal fishing and using some of the destructive fishing tool. So could you please explain to me again the way you did that interview to get the true answer from the fisherman? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hoa, for your questions. The first question is we don't ask fisher about the output, like the quantity of harvest or the revenue. We just ask about the income from fishery and the alternative income. We don't ask about the quantity of harvest. So the income from fishery, it somehow referring to the fishing revenue. Is that okay? And the second is the second question is you wondering about there may be not enough enforcement for the regulation there. As I said before, there are different kind of violations. So for the destructive fishing gear that is prohibited in the area, and also fishing in the protected area is also prohibited. So people in the village, fisher in the village, they quite follow that regulation. But for the third one, that is the use small mesh sign net for fishing, that is quite popular. They don't how can I say, they don't follow much about that regulation. There are two main points for that reason. For that two main reason for that activity. The first is they feel the regulation, that regulation is not reality, and the second is that they are in poor condition, so they need fish for their life. So we have some we have some policy implementation that I present earlier. That one thing is how can I say, the instrumental incentive, that should be strong enough, and also they should have the enhancing the legitimacy, and also provide or helping people with alternative income source. And also for the how can I say, for the norms, that is when still people in the village, they still feel that using the small mesh sign net is the right thing, and then it will become spread out in the community, and if other people, they feel that is normal, in the community. So that is very difficult to reduce the use of small mesh sign net. So how to encourage people reduce the small mesh sign net is very important. And the third question is related to the method used to collect the data, the sensitive questions, we used two kind of method. One is the RRT, and the other is the direct questioning. For the RRT, we use the dice, and in the dice we have the dice have six sides, and for one side we mark the yes, the other side we mark the no, and the four left side, that is blank. So when people they threw the die, when they use the die, they will how can I say, they will turn opposite to the reviewer, so the reviewer cannot see the result from throwing the dice. So when the fisher they throwing the dice, if they see the yes, and they will mark the yes in the questions. If they see the no, and they will mark the no, and if they see the blank, they will answer truthfully, yes or no. The interview, they don't know what is the answer from the fisherman. So we hope that will encourage fishermen to answer truthfully. And then we use the second type question, that is the direct questioning, that we ask the same exactly questions as the RRT. And people can't answer the questions. And then when we will use the two data from the two techniques to calculate the proportion of fisher involved to different kind of illegal fishing, and we compare the two results to see is it the how can I say, is it we can get the true answer from both type question or not. And you see in the in the result that the number of proportion the proportion of fisher involved to illegal fishing in the two methods is quite similar.
Okay, thank you.
Is that clear? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Xuan.
Thank you, Dr. Hoa Lê. And one or two more questions. One more questions from audience. And yeah, in the meantime, I may have one quick questions that actually Dr. Hoa Lê also mentioned. Like, for example, if we look at the driver of being violated to the regulations. So maybe we think of economic incentive, for example, whether they have a good income, whether they have a different, you know, livelihood. So, you know, non-compliance behavior become relatively expensive because, you know, fishermen, they may have a, you know, good income, or they may have a different sources of income. And another point is, you know, the villager in the protected area, in the villages, maybe whether they are aware of, you know, outsiders coming to the protected area and to do some illegal fishing or not. So there are 2 points. Economic incentive, maybe, you know, if they have a good livelihood, they have a good income, and you know, non-compliance behavior become you know, relatively more expensive, and then that's maybe the driver. And also the other one, which is the outline, the someone from others villages coming over, and also maybe the another part maybe about the size of punishment, maybe too risky for them, too expensive for them to violate the regulations. So how can you address those points in your studies? Yeah, thank you.
You mean including those factors in the model? You mean that?
In the model or something in the discussion that you may have, because now I you know, I'm doing something like illegal because, you know, it is too cheap for me, or I don't want to do that anymore because it becomes more expensive to me relatively, because now I have a lot of you know, good ways to make money rather than being risky. And also, yeah,
you are right. The first factor you mentioned is the income. So the source of income for fisheries mainly come from fishing activity, and the other is come from other source. But we didn't include the income in our model because the income there, including both from fishing and from the other source. So it will make the correlation between the outcome of the model. So we don't include the income source in our model. And the economic incentive you mentioned is right. And we also discussed that that point in the paper. For example, as I mentioned, people, because the regulation, the enforcement is very strict for the two kind of regulation, that is the restrictive fishing gear and protected in the and fishing in the protected area. The enforcement is very strict. The monitoring and enforcement is very strict there. So people in the village, they don't violate with that regulation, and they also learn about that. If they follow that rule, their livelihood will be improved, because for the long time they see about that. But that is also the interest for the outsider, because they see the potential for that. So that's why you have the outsider poaching violates with two regulation. With that two regulation, the only regulation that is violated in the fishing village that employ the turf is that the small mat size, net. Yeah. And the local government, they still have no effective solution to solve that problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much. Any others questions? We are approaching 8 o'clock, about almost 1 hour. And is there any further questions, comments? All right. If no further comments, yeah, once again, thank you very much for everyone for joining us today. And thank you, especially, thank you, Dr. Xuan Bui, for sharing interesting topic. Yeah, we learned a lot about the, you know, fishing and compliance behavior in a case study in Vietnam. And hopefully we have more presentation and more story to be shared among our network. And yeah, once again, thank you very much for everyone for interesting kickoff webinar of the EfD Global Hub and and Blue R4D. Thank you very much. Dr. Xuan, do you want to say last words?
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, but just thank you both. That's a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. Hope to listen to you again.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye, Carlos. Bye, everyone. Bye, Lesbian.
Bye.
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 Great to see you all. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Carlos.
Hi, everyone.